It's Megan
from West Coast Swing Online, and in this video we're bringing this to you live when we're in lockdown for the coronavirus, and we're covering all sorts of things West Coast Swing and other dance related, and this one is 3 keys to one-footed spins. So let's quickly kind of break down what we're talking about with one-footed spins. That would be something in a West Coast Swing scenario that looked like this, where we'd spin on one foot. When I say we, I mean not me. So we're going to break down 3 things. We also have a couple of bonuses. Let's talk about those in a second. Miss Megan, can you give me my little sheet, and we'll make sure that you guys can see this. So, what are we going to be talking about tonight? And I kind of put this in a little bit of a weird order for you. So we're talking about one-footed spins. These things are also called pirouettes if you're in the ballet world, but they're partnered. So 3 things we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about balance. We're going to talk about creating rotation. Or rather connection, so what happens in the hands, and then creating rotation. And our bonus, I'm actually going to tell you how to stop. And then another bonus, brought to you by Miss Emily, are going to be fouette turns. So what are fouette turns? Can you demonstrate what fouette turns? Because we're going to, oh, Miss Emily's like, she's going to be brought, I'm trying to entertain you at the same time. So what are fouette turns, Miss Emily? So these are fouette turns. And she says to me, don't help, Brian B. I'm really good at these, so leave me alone. So that's going to be a bonus. That is being added. We are doing a course called The Ultimate Guide to Spins and Turns. This is just one section that's going to be in the course, but we decided this is version 2.0 that we're about to complete. It's almost done. It will be ready to launch in a couple of days. If you guys are interested in that, you can click in the link in the description below. I'll have Emily or Ben drop the link for the sign-up list. You can enter your email address, and I'll email you when the course is ready. But it's version 2.0 of the course. We did our Ultimate Guide to Spins and Turns many years ago, and after putting hundreds and almost 1,000 people through the course, we found out that one of the things they wanted to learn were the fouette turns. So we're adding to that course. In the course, we're going to cover everything from beginning to end, everything you need to know about spins and turns for West Coast Swing and two-step. We're going to imagine you guys are there. But today we're talking about one-footed spins. So if you watched our live videos before, the very first part is going to be our spins, or rather our balance drill for spins. So we're going to line up. Let's go. You want to go behind me? That way you can see me while I'm...
behind or beside?
It doesn't matter. Let's go this way, sideways. So the first drill we're going to do is we need to practice our balance. So we're going to rock forward on the left foot, and then we're going to rock back. Actually, they're going to be spinning off the right foot, aren't they? The right foot. So let's do the right foot. We'll go this way. There we go. So followers, you're going to be spinning off your right foot. So we're going to rock forward on our right foot, and we're going to try to find our balance point through our 3-toe base. So when we talk about the
favorite foot.
3-toe base, it's the first 3 toes of your right foot. So you're going to find that balance point and try to balance with the heel up in a balanced position. So that's the first stage. Now, I've had the experience with students that have come in and said, hey, I want to learn these one-footed spins. They're really cool. Don't we all? And I say, how long can you stay balanced on one? I say, how many turns do you want to do? And they say, we want to do 10 turns. Great, me too. How long can you stay balanced on one foot? Because if I can't stay balanced for 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9 Mississippi, 10 Mississippi. Cool? I need to develop the balance through the ball of that foot. So you're going to develop that by literally first standing still over the foot. Second progression to the drill is we're going to get to that point. We're going to push a quarter turn and stay balanced into a quarter turn. We're going to continue this in quarter turns around the room. And I would say that it's this part of the drill that you need to spend the most time on, because even as I'm standing here dancing this drill, I can feel my weight moving through my foot, and you have to get good with all the little muscles to correct that. Do you have anything to share about the balance? Because this is the first big key.
Like a drill to help with it?
No, just to build, like what you think about what's going on with your leg. What's in your brain when you're balancing in this drill?
So in turns, and this is not necessarily how I do the one-footed spin, but in the drill for sure, as I'm doing my quarter turns, everything is, well, actually I do my one-footed spin this way too. Everything's very solid, whether it's bent or whether it's straight. There is not a lot of play in my leg. So as I'm doing this, I make sure that everything is really nice and tight so I can stay balanced where I need to stay balanced.
Cool, because ultimately, even though when you're doing this drill at home, and you've heard me say this before if you watch my videos, you want to stay balanced until the point at which your face hits the ground, right? But to Megan's point, there's a lot of play in that. When we're spinning on one foot, everything needs to be solid. So we're going to progress this drill. Quarter turns first, then we're going to do this in half turns. So we're going to rotate a half turn and stay, and then rock and a half turn and stay. And the goal is to be able to complete that half turn on one foot and balance. So the key is when you get to the end of that half turn, I want you to stay balanced. Now, question, and if you're watching this video live, you have the ability to ask questions. Mr. Ben and Emily are manning the computers there, so whether you're on Facebook and or YouTube, we can interact, you can ask questions, we can cover things. Ben's great at threading the questions at the appropriate place in the lesson. So that's the, Ben is doing this behind the camera, he's proud of himself. He also has a great radio voice when we're not tying up the microphones for the Q&As. And rare time, I lost my train of thought. So as we're doing this quarter turn balance, this was the story we're going to get to, was how many people have had the experience in this room or otherwise that on their 10th pirouette they just run out of energy? Never. Can you see the board? Can you bring me my board? So the first thing is the balance. We've got a little bit more to work to do on the balance, but can we see that on the screen? Balance is number one, connection is number two, but we're going to kind of jump to creating rotation. So one of the things in terms of, actually I'm going to put this in a different order. We're going to cover creating rotation next. Well, we have to cover this. But I want you to think about creating rotation because a lot of times what ends up happening is in the one-footed spins, we have way too much energy. So part of this quarter turn drill is to kill, yeah, you're good, is to kill the urge to add so much energy that you're off balance. So by forcing yourself into these quarter turns, right? Quarter turns, and then let's do a half turn, into a half turn, you're only going to use as much energy as is necessary to complete that turn. So it's really going to work on balance. Key number one is balance, right? We're going to skip key number two, the connection. Let's talk about a full turn, and then we're going to go to key number three, which is creating the energy. So if we do this in a full turn scenario, we're going to step forward, we're going to do a full turn. And the key is you want to leave the relationship of your body the same, meaning my right side forward and strong and my left side back. So you can talk about a little bit about what you think about in terms of not collapsing that side to add too much energy.
For this drill particular, I'm not collapsing a side at all. I am letting my momentum from pushing off of my toe carry me all the way around.
So if you can see that, right? She just barely completed that turn. So you want the least amount of energy to make the turn to preserve your balance. So in years of teaching this to people, I've found 100 out of 100 times everyone has too much energy. They fear, because they're not fantastic at one-footed spins, they fear that they need more energy and they're really worried about all these techniques involved in it. But if you don't master this balance and this ability to rotate one full rotation and stay balanced, right? Who was it that said, maybe me? I had a student that came to me once that said, hey Brian, I dance with XYZ Top Pro, and I did 3 one-footed spins. And I said, I had a lot of rapport with this person, I said, I'm not very impressed. And they looked at me horrified. And I said, why? I said, because one turn is free, right? Anyone can flop through a turn, right? The second turn is what creates quite a bit of skill. Mikhail Baryshnikov said, you're not a real dancer unless you can do 3 turns. Now in this case, I saw the 3 one-footed spins in question, and my student took off for the first spin, that's the free, and the dancer helped her through. Literally, big strong guy held onto her hand and literally cranked her through. So we're gonna keep you guys from having that problem. So if we add a little bit, we're gonna jump to key number 3. I'm sorry, I put these in a terrible order. Balance is number 1. Really number 2 would be the ability to create energy. So how are we going to create energy? So we've left this side back, right? And we've drilled this in a full turn, leaving this side back. Why? Because balance is the key to start. Now, when we talk about creating energy for the second and third turns, we're going to talk about flaring this leg a little bit. Want to talk about that maybe a little bit?
Can I use your hand?
Yes. That's connection. That's we're not talking about that in this, Megan.
No, but if I'm going to talk and try to balance at the same time. So what he means by flaring the leg, as I'm stepping into this turn, I am not really going to create too much energy with my upper body whatsoever in this first part of the turn. I'm going to let my leg fly out a little bit so I can pull it in later.
Cool. So as a driller, I'm kind of, now I know. Now you reminded me why I put it in this order, why I changed my order. From an at-home perspective, I want to practice my balance, right? Then, because I'm likely not to have a partner in my living room that's effective at leading one-footed spins.
Connection.
What's that?
You don't have the connection point.
I don't have the connection part. So we're going to do that last. And actually, the connection part we're going to do last, you could literally have anyone that can walk in a circle to lead you in that. But let's cover the second part, the flaring the legs. So Miss Megan said this side is going to stay out. What's going to happen is, as we complete the first turn, this leg is going to come in. Now, I don't care where it comes in, ankle, here, cross. I've seen people, where do you pull it?
I don't know.
I don't know. So I've seen people cross it here in a figure 4. They bring it alongside. They leave it down low.
Some people leave it out too, but that's not going to help too much with pulling in with the connection. Or with the,
so I'm not super
rotation.
worried about. But the idea is, as we flare this leg, as I pull this in, and Megan can speak to this as an ice skater, what happens when you spin as an ice skater?
You go faster.
By doing what?
Pulling in.
You increase angular momentum by decreasing the radius of gyration.
There you go.
You increase angular momentum, the rotation, by decreasing the radius of gyration, by pulling your arms in, or in this case, your leg in. That is the only passage in the physics book and biomechanics book that I read. The only one. Just so I could rattle that term off. Otherwise known as pulling your arms in to go faster.
Not just your arms, it's literally everything.
Yeah, but staying practical, this leg, balance number 1. Key number 2, I'm going to flare this leg so that I can bring it in a little bit. And what will happen is, see if you can complete 2 turns. You start 1, and you pull it in to complete 2 turns, and then pop it back out. Step 1, and complete 2 turns. So you're going to notice the leg flares. You want to try that? Can you do that? I did good.
Don't know.
Boom.
Woo. No, I can do it on this leg.
Boom. You can do it with me. Which brings us, so that's the second drill you can practice at home. And don't skip the step. If you can do one perfectly balanced, right? Then you can do the second one where you flare the leg and pull it in with how much effort? Just enough to complete the second turn. So it's a little bit of a pull in and a release. So 1 turn, a pull in and release as you hit the second turn. Cool? So that is key number 2. Key number 3, and this one you do not have to, do we have any questions by the way so far? No questions. This one you do not have to have someone who can dance with you. Megan's going to assume the position. Boom. From here, she's in the balanced position we talked about. She's going to keep this arm at an L shape. This arm is never going to go too far in front of her head. It's never going to go too far behind her. And at no point is she going to go under her own arm. Show us under your own arm. Terrible, because I'm not leading, right? So you're going to assume the position on the right foot as
my
the follower.
weight is in my toes.
Ball of the foot, 3-toe base. If you don't know what that is, Google 3-toe base, West Coast swing, and you'll find an article on that. So as the leader, I'm going to walk around. And Megan's going to keep the relationship the same. Bingo. So here's what's going to happen when you do that. One of 2 things is going to happen. Either number 1, you're going to push too much into my hand, and you're going to push yourself and go under your own arm. Let's do that again. Wrong.
Wrong. Yes, wrong.
So we're assuming the position, she's pushing on me, and she's pushing herself under the own arm, right? That's common mistake number 1. Number 2 is, as I begin to lead, in this case walk around, she's going to get all spaghetti arm on me, and I'm going to push this behind her, and then at some point, she's probably going to catch up and push back and go underneath the arm. So if you can complete 2 walk-around turns, 2 correct walk-around turns, boom, where we just walk around, we keep this maintained as the leader. That's 1 turn. This is boring and slow. That's 2 turns. Then you're ready to put it all together. So if we look at the setup, we have 1, 2 for 1, 2, right? Then we're going to step a count 3, hold 4, if this was West Coast swing. So it's typically done from a leader's right to follower's left. 1, 2 is pretty chill. On 3, I kind of have an up to a set. So lead-wise, I have a little bit of a 1, 2, and I kind of pick this up and set her on that foot. From here, she's thinking 1 rotation with the leg flared, 1 rotation with the leg flared. Now, so as not to outpace the arm, as she pulls that leg in, I will then circle her head. Bingo. So leaders, this is the path to practice this. This is off script of 3 keys. But the path of the hand is what we call baby steps. You circle her head, and you circle her head. So that in all turns, no matter which direction they're going, Megan's arm's in essence in the same spot, and I circle the head. So during the one-footed spins, this hand is circling her head the entire time. Do we have a question? 3 questions.
Yes. First question is, where is the follower spotting?
That is a great question. I'm not telling you. It's in the course. The ultimate. No, I'm just kidding. Question. Where does the follower spot in the turns?
Truthfully, that is different for everybody. Most people probably would spot downline. So you start here and you would keep spotting downline. Some people pick a different spot depending on where they're most balanced.
I have an answer. Miss Emily, what's your answer? Where do you spot in one-footed spins?
Down the line, definitely not your partner because it's usually a moving target.
Ooh, that's interesting. Miss Emily says down the line, not your moving partner. In my experience, I'm going to be the dissenter. I'm going to be the
Told
dissenter.
me to spot you, didn't you?
A lot of people either spot me or typically to the front,
I was going to say the front. Yeah.
right? So what's going to happen in my front is during this rotation, Megan's going to pick up the spot in the front, and that's going to be the pulse of the turn. Pop, pop, typically. So I think a little bit in this setup, during the initial setup of the turn, you're finding the spot. And then as this leg closes in, you're locked on the spot. But what you're going to test, and to, this discussion kind of presented the reality, there are great dancers who spot in all different directions. So to what Megan said, I've seen people that will spot their partner. I've seen people that spot out. And I'll see people that spot this way. One time late at night, I don't know if you guys know this, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I sat down and broke down on Coach's eye like 20 different people doing one-footed spins, and I found out all sorts of interesting. You want to know the other takeaway? Well, let's answer the other questions. I'll give you the other takeaway.
Next question, actually, another one came in. So 2 regarding the leader's hand. Can you talk about the leader's hand and how it flips going through the turn?
Leader's hand and the flip. So I like this baby step drill. And I'm going to go this side for the baby step drill. So on an outside turn, basically the follower's fingers go to the sky, right? On an inside turn, I take my fingers towards the inside, and that's the path, right? On an outside turn, my fingers are there. Now, within that, there is a curl to the follower's fingers. So she is not pulling down, right? But there is a connection in the fingers, almost as if I was on the other side of that. If I drop this way, the connection is moving through this way, right? So as I'm up, there is a connection. I won't say it's pulling down because
It's also not going up.
it's not going up, right? So there is a settling down of this feeling. So that way we've got some connection in this finger. So pulse-wise, right, this is the part that's going fast. Zip and, zip and, zip and, right? So in a perfect world, this is actually staying what they call cup in pin. Let's go close to the camera. What they call cup in pin. You're gonna scooch, can you scooch down for me? So that's in essence the grip. That is the most terrible rotation you've ever done in your life.
Yeah, my knees suck.
So in a perfect world, there doesn't have to be a regrip to the hand. It's staying in that position, right? There is a pulse to it, but the grip of our hand should never change. For me, I have small hands. I'll have 2 fingers there. If I were, I don't know, if you're a tall guy with big fingers, you might just have 1, but I think 2 fingers is probably the rock star grip. Another question.
Are you ever making contact with the followers? Sorry, you just did that one. I misread that question. Going back to the spotting question, does it depend on kind of where the lead is pulsing the turn on where it will feel correct to spot?
Good question. Does it matter where the lead is pulsing the turn, where it will feel correct to spot? Yes. I'm going to take an angle to this and say that if we talked about how the turn was set up, right? The follower has I feel like we were doing this off camera when we get to our bonus forte turns, and Miss Emily said, "Stop helping me." Meaning the follower's ability to complete this turn on their own, on her own, is going to drive a lot of the feel for me at least, right? So I can't make a follower do this if they're not good at it, right? So yes, the leader can affect the pulse depending upon where they're at, but I think as the follower, if you run through this little drill and you create your own setup to a spot, right? You're gonna create that setup to the spot. So right now, I'm not collapsing this left side in until here, right? So it's gonna come a little later. So it's coming while I'm at the camera. But if I were gonna spot the front, I would be here, right? And so now, notice where my leg is, it's coming in on this side. So I think it's very much driven by where the follower initiates the turn, and the leader's gonna then keep that pulse going. So if you don't have a clear path as the follower to where you are initiating the turn and coming back with your spot, then as the leader, you'll miss. Like it'll be the cogs will be off.
Yes, and especially with this turn, if you don't tend to pull that leg in by this point, you're gonna hit your partner. So you're pretty much always gonna have that spot to the front, or if you like to spot to the side, somewhere in that range.
Cool?
Yes. Can you talk about the energy relationship between the leader and the follower? Is it a 50-50 energy relationship? Does the leader eventually take over regenerating? How does that work?
Yeah, so the energy relationship between the leaders and the followers within the pulse of the spin. So if you were to take the Baryshnikov 3 pirouette rule, like you're not a real dancer unless you can do 3 pirouettes. I don't know where I got that from. I hope I'm not making that up because I've said that for years. Your ability to be able to do a couple of rotations on one foot by yourself. So the first one's free, right? The second one you should be able to regenerate on your own. But then again, if we've talked about, ooh, dizzy. If we've talked about using the least amount of energy necessary, it does become reliant upon the leader to continue the pulse of the energy, right? So to Megan's point, everything is held tight in a balanced position. This is solid, right? It's not getting behind her or she's not pushing back. And so at that point, the leader literally is stirring the turn and the spot does create some of the energy. And then here's the fun thing I figured out by breaking down 20 people. And these are professional dancers in routines where they know that this move is coming. This is random Jack and Jills where 2 dancers are dancing together and this just happens organically. And almost invariably, this is a weird thing to teach, almost invariably, the follower's right hip was kicked out to the side. The follower's right hip was actually pulling the outside of the turn. Isn't that fascinating? And I've never heard anyone teach that, but if you think about where the energy has to come, if I had both hands, right, I would have one hand leading for the other side to catch up. So to simulate that, this hip almost, watch them online. Now they're stacked up, but they're almost always stacked up with a trade-off between their rib cage and their hip, which also, if you think about a top, right, the more that this is sucked up, the taller and skinnier I am, the lower this hip is out, the lower and wider I am, which is why we carry our arms. Like ballet people will do pirouettes high and low, but this is always out. Would you agree? Am I speaking out of turn? In a pirouette, like this leg is basically allowing the base to be lower, like a top, right? If you imagine a triangle to this point, if you almost see my hip, it's in opposition.
So it's typically at the groove of your knee.
The groove of my knee, the toe. Or West Coast swing dancers, it doesn't matter. You just put that thing wherever the heck you want. But that is an interesting fact. And some point I'm gonna do a video where we break that down. But there's a small amount of people who really are concerned with that. If you can do a bunch of one-footed spins and, so here's your bonus. You have to have an exit strategy. The exit strategy. So as we're doing this, and we're baby stepping, ba 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 ba. When you're done, maybe Megan knows she's done. She's gonna use her left arm to stop herself on me. If we do this from behind, we've set up the turn this way. Sorry, here. 5 baby steps. We're doing the one-footed spins. Ba 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 ba. When she's done, her left hand connecting to me will be the end. And
Gently.
Gently. Somewhere in our many videos that we have. Somewhere are some bloopers videos in a folder. And my favorite one was we were setting these one-footed spins up and Megan fell off balance in a split second and used her stop and she slapped me off the camera.
Oh, so funny.
Off the camera. We set this up, we went boom, 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 and she slapped me
I went,
so hard that I came off the frame. really loud and
It was
audible.
awesome.
But anyways, that's your bonus, that's your exit strategy. And then another question? Yeah, and so then in the bonus, if you guys do get the ultimate guide to one-footed spins, you can click the link in the description below. We're gonna cover, in that course, we're gonna cover pivot turns and how we're gonna land those in the balance positions. We're gonna cover multiple spins, which we did in another video. We're gonna cover one-footed spins, and we're gonna cover pirouettes. Not pirouettes, fouette turns, which I actually think are much easier because they're a complete different setup and a whole different discussion, but because there is a balance point of two hands that both the leader and the follower, very similar pulse, but I can do these and I'm old and crippled without any flexibility.
Should have a fouette off.
Yeah, so that's going to be on, we didn't have time to cover that tonight, but that will be in the Ultimate Guide to Spins and Turns 2.0, which will be released hopefully sometime next week. We'll send out an email. Hopefully Megan's like, are you kidding me? I have to edit all those videos? Yes, Miss Megan, we do. Any final questions? We'll be back with an advanced West Coast swing in about 5, 6, 7 minutes. We'll see you guys on the other side. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on Facebook, go to West Coast Swing Online. Smash it. Put in West Coast Swing Online on YouTube and find our channel and hit subscribe and share this with a friend and share it on Facebook. And we love you guys. We'll see you back in a little bit.